Mike, turn your games down.
Time for me episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's climbing up skyscrapers with me tonight?
Well, we got Vincent Goodwin from the Some of My Friends Read Comics podcast.
I'm Joe Larrey, and I am looking forward to talking about the never-ending conflict between the Kongs and Mario.
Fair.
And I'm Kyle, and I had just moved into my new place in New Donk City. I can't wait to go exploring.
So we are here to talk about a game that I had no intention of ever playing, but thanks to just didn't.
Why?
Oh my God, Mike! Why?
It's the reason. I don't know.
There are like 3 Game Boy games you'd save in a fire, and this is number 1 with a bullet.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
I don't know if it's number 1, but it's top 3.
Because I am normally not a puzzle platformer gamer. Normally I don't like puzzle games. They're not my type of game, to be fair. But we will get into that shortly. So we're here to talk about Donkey Kong 1994 that came out for Game Boy, developed by Nintendo EAD and Pax Softnica. Yeah, it came out in 1994. Only for Game Boy, and for some stupid reason has never been re-released.
It was on the 3DS VC. I have it on my...
It was on 3DS Virtual Console. This game is
so they have one re-release.
This game is so odd, but it's also just like, I want to show this game. I want this game to be an example of like, oh, the Game Boy actually kicked ass, and it wasn't just like a console with crappy NES ports. Like this console actually kicked ass, and this is one of the reasons why it kicked ass.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, and this is also the reason why you bought the Super Game Boy add-on for your NES.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or if you're like me, who never exactly bought one, except one like ages later at a pawn shop, this is one of the reasons why you would rent the Super Game Boy.
Yep.
So I always like to start these with history. So I knew of this game because Player One podcast had mentioned it off and on, and I had tried it once or twice, and I'm like, this is just Donkey Kong. So I only played the first 2 levels, and I'm like, yep, this is just Donkey Kong. And then I didn't keep playing it, and had mostly forgotten about it, and it wasn't until we recorded Year in Gaming 1994 over a while ago, almost a year ago, and you guys had started talking about this game and really talked about it. I'm like, all right, one day we're gonna do it, and that's my history with it. So I didn't play it until this past week.
And I'm so happy that you ended up doing that. Thank you so much.
And Vince, what is your history with this game?
Oh, I mean, I was Donkey Kong Pill. Okay, so I was a Nintendo Power kid. I got my Nintendo Power subscription in Christmas 1993, so this was my first full year of Nintendo Power, as we already covered on the Year in Gaming 1994, which is just like all bangers. And I had a Game Boy for a year before that, and Game Boy was my primary gaming system. I would play it all the time. We'd trade games at the daycare with other kids. We would, play Wario Land, Mario Land 2, Alleyway, Tetris, whatever we get our hands on. And Nintendo Power, I feel like they were pushing this hard. So I definitely got it like day one. As soon as I could, I mustered up my 30 American dollars together. And I bought Donkey Kong 94 based on the write-ups in Nintendo Power. And I immediately had a blast. I remember playing this on the school bus during the summer. We would be in a place, we'd go on field trips, and I would play like, oh my God, I'm at the Jungle World. Oh my God, are you there? You could pull like switches and other shit can happen, and you drop these things down. So me and like 5 other kids just like played it like all summer. Like when you get to the final level with the big Donkey Kong, we're like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like it was just like, this was us, me and like 5 other boys just playing this like 4th grade maybe. It was a killer. I was there from the beginning, and I always had a blast. Always had a soft spot in my heart, and it's like the perfect little puzzle platformer. That was my experience.
Okay. And Joseph.
So, first time I played this game, it sounds strange, but it was actually at my doctor's office. In fact, when I was a kid, the doctor's office they had some Game Boys. One had Tetris, and the other one had Donkey Kong playing in it. And that was the first time I experienced this. And then when I got my Game Boy, and when I got that, I also got the Super Game Boy at the same time, and I got this game, and like Vincent, I spent all summer playing this game, trying to figure out all the puzzles and hidden secrets in it and stuff. And I had an absolute blast. It's a game I still come back to every once in a while to play because it is just such an addictive puzzle game.
That is all fair. And Kyle.
Well, I love this game for many, many reasons, but I particularly love this game because I had a very extremely fond childhood with it. I actually discovered this just as it was coming out as a bright and precocious little 4-year-old. I remember reading video game magazines of screenshots of it, and I remember just, I think it was So I believe this came out the summer of 94, and I think around that time period, I don't know if I was just at the time like a really good kid, or like why this happened, or like my mom was just really nice, or like something happened, but like around that time period, I got to buy a new Game Boy game, and like that was kind of a rare occasion. Like for a lot of video games, my family would just rent instead of buying, because it's like, well, like they get to pick a new game each time, and like you can just rent for a few days and they'll get sick of the game, and like instead of paying like $80 Canadian or $70 Canadian for a new game, you can just pay like $5 or $4 for a 3-day rental or whatever the hell. Or I know video stores got even better with this type of thing in the later 90s, where like if it was a particularly like an older game, you could rent it for like 7 days for dirt cheap. And a couple of video stores started doing that in the later half of the 90s and the 2000s. But anyway, sorry, not to diverge. Yeah, so I don't know like how this happened, but like Monday, my mom was I went to the store with my mom, and she took me to like the video game section. I was just like, like just kind of stunned, because I'm just like, oh, video games. And like, I'm a 4-year-old, and I'm just like pointing at stuff, and she's being an awesome mom and everything. And like, I remember like I got to pick out a Game Boy game, because we had a Game Boy at home, and we actually had a couple of games for it. Game Boy was kind of the exception, though, of like buying a game. Like we could get Game Boy games because they were a little cheaper, and plus like, it's the Game Boy. We're always taking with us wherever we go on like car trips or vacations. So of course, like we can get a like new game before vacation. Anyways, I went to the store with my mom, and it was like a bright summer day. And I remember like we bought it, and I remember like we went through the store, like took it to the cashier. My mom paid for it, and then the cashier put it in like a big white plastic bag, and then like we walked out of the store, and I remember just feeling like amazed. And then like I got in the back of the car, and my mom started driving, and just like I looked at it on the way home, and just like I had all this like wonder, like, oh, what's this gonna be like? What's this like going to be like? And like, I think oddly enough, my mom also was the one who picked this out besides me, because like she recognized Donkey Kong, because she played, like she played it on like the arcade and like on NES and stuff when, before I was born, we had an NES. Well, actually, while I was born, we had an NES. But anyway, like, yeah, she recognized like, oh, Donkey Kong, you like that because it's Donkey Kong. And I'm like, okay. And then, I had an extremely, extremely fond childhood with this game. This, like, not only is one of my favorite Game Boy games, it's one of my favorite video games, period. I love this game with all my heart. I love it to death. It's perfect. It's a 10 out of 10. And sorry, that's a bit of my life story. I apologize for rambling.
Fine. I mean, one thing that makes this show special is that, I'm able to talk with people about why the game means something to them and how it affects their life. So I think that's part of this podcast, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Kyle, you seem like you had a very similar experience to me. I mean, we rented, like, only one of our rental stores had Game Boy games.
Oh, yeah.
But I had a daycare where there was like 5 or 6 kids, and we all brought our Game Boy stuff. Because like I look at like Jeremy Parrish's like Game Boy Works. And like I've played every game from like the first year of like the Game Boy. Yeah. And I'm like, I didn't own them. Just like different of us kids had Mega Man, Dr. Wily's Revenge, or Mega Man 2, or Spanky's Quest, or Boomer's Adventure in Asmic World. And we would buy. My mom would buy the Game Boy game. She's like, it's the same price. I mean, we're $30. Like, why buy Tetris for the NES for $40 when you can buy Tetris for the Game Boy for $30?
And like with my family, especially, my mom would be like, well, this we can take wherever we go. Like, it doesn't have to just be at home. Like, if I have a doctor's appointment with, me as a kid or my brothers, they could bring the Game Boy with them and play in the waiting room while we wait for a doctor's appointment, or going on a car trip to some family member, or going on vacation. We could just bring the Game Boy and have the Game Boy version. And like video gaming, especially for me, was kind of weird growing up as a girl. For listeners at home, I am a transgender man. I transitioned later in my life in my 20s, but like as a girl, like video gaming was especially kind of not weird, but just kind of funky, because like a lot of the times too, my mom would always pick like the kind of bright and cheery looking games and like cute games and stuff. And like sometimes that didn't work out so well, but then there are other times where, like, I got games like this or Bomberman because my mom was like, oh, this looks cute. Like, look, it's, it's Bomberman. He's cute. And I'm like, yeah. And, like, I get Bomberman. So, like, yeah, like, I got games like this because, like, the graphics on the box was, like, all bright and cheery and colorful. Like, and that just holds that really holds a big spot in my heart. Thank you.
And I'm glad that you guys experienced. I wish I would have experienced this game. Like, I played a lot of Game Boy games, but this one just completely slipped by my radar. Nobody I knew had it. Nobody I knew even mentioned it ever growing up. Like, and I mean, I've said this on this podcast before. I'm not a big puzzle gamer. Like, that's not my thing.
Weirdly enough, I'm also not really a big puzzle person myself. Like, it's weird how, like, games like this or Tetris or some of the other certain falling, like, block games or whatever were, like, it's weird to me that those are all so successful to me because, yeah, I'm usually not a puzzle person. I always feel like I'm a fucking idiot when it comes to puzzle games. Like, why am I not beating this? Why isn't this working? And then everyone else would be like, I'm done. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So oppositely, like, this is like the perfect, like, I love puzzle platforms, and I love puzzle platforms in this view because this is mostly, not entirely, like a one-screen game. And like, for those of you who haven't, like, is it Donkey Kong? It is Donkey Kong, like the arcade game for a few levels, but mostly it's a find a key and then get it to a lock game.
Yep, exactly.
That's what it mostly is. And this is no different to me. It scratches the same itch than like Portal. It's like, how do I get from there to there?
Exactly.
And that's like that.
Very
and
fair.
like everything is like, there's only like 3 fucking things in this room.
Yep.
How do I do this? And that scratches that itch like perfectly. Like, I get real bored on like long Donkey Kong Country levels that are like 15 minutes long, Sonic the Hedgehog levels that are just like go to the right. But like, it's like, this is a small, compact little area. You have everything you need to do to achieve this thing.
And
Super Meat Boy achieves the same goal. It's perfect.
And even with the time limit, the game's still like, oh, knock yourself out. Like, figure this out. Like, just go right ahead, Like, here, like, we'll give you 300 seconds, go at it. It really lets you, like, figure it out. It doesn't do any sort of, like, hints or whatever. It's always just like, no, you figure, like, okay, here you go. Here's the empty room, figure the solution out.
Yeah, and it's all like environmental storytelling, like like a lot of the challenges and a lot of the tools that it teaches you. I was then playing also its semi-sequel, Super Mario versus Donkey Kong from the Game Boy Advance, and that has like help question marks on every level, so you can teach you the mechanic of like, you need to jump on this rope and swing on it. Whereas this game is like, fuck you, you figure it out. Which is one of the reasons, like Astrobot, the new PS5 game, is a very silent game. It doesn't teach you shit. And my daughter is 6 years old and she's figured it all out. Even it has like the stuff like you grab onto the bar and you swing it, although you like kind of gyro with the controller, and that makes the Astrobot swing up like a trapeze and then jump up. Just like Donkey Kong 94. I'm like, oh my gosh, this mechanic was here 30 years ago in this like from this like PS5 game. Like, nothing has changed. Like, Donkey Kong 94 is like, it's a tight, compact puzzle platformer. It's got 100 levels, which is a big deal for a Game Boy game. And then it's just got like incredibly crazy mechanics that I all feel I'm jumping around like 20 subjects, but I'm sorry. Like, it's got like, it feels like it's R&D for Super Mario 64. Like, in terms of like the gameplay mechanics, like Mario has like a crazy moveset. He has like a run that he can like flip backwards if you like jump backwards, which is in Mario 64. It doesn't have the handstand in there, but like in terms of like what Mario can do, it feels like they're trying to figure out what they can do in 64. Like, it's such a crazy game.
Which is weird because like the Game Boy and the Nintendo 64 are such vastly different things. Like, holy shit. Like, it's weird that they practice with this game for the N64 with Mario 64, like this game. And it's like, okay, we're going to try to debut Mario's moves in this game. And then in 2 years later, as we're developing the Nintendo 64, we're going to try them again in Mario 64.
Yeah. Well, because Mario 64 is also a, like, how do I get to that thing kind of game.
Oh, totally.
More than just like get right to left and jump on Goomba's game.
Well,
in this game, like, you think it would be simple because it really is just you're usually in a mostly one screen puzzle levels. I mean, they do go up and down and they get a little bit more complex as the game progresses. Like you said earlier, with the key in the keyhole, like, it's not super complicated theory. You also have 3 items you can collect in each level, which earn you a bonus room, bonus round, which gets you extra lives, slot machine, garbage, bullshit, stuff like that. That's how I feel about slot
Yeah,
machines.
but the key thing is like you're getting the key to it, but then like Mario, like Spelunky, has like a very limited moveset. He can't jump high like he does in other Mario games, and he fucking dies real quickly if you fall from a great height.
Which
I'm like,
sometimes he doesn't die. He just shakes his leg in the air. Like, oh fuck, that hurt. I love that.
but like
It's so cute. I love the little sound it makes too. Like all these all these little things in this game like make little sound effects, and it's so fucking cute.
I've played this game so much though over 30 years, Mike, and I'm curious if you had this experience. Like I know intuitively how far Mario can fall before I'm fucked, and I don't know if you had to learn that.
I had what's called save state. So if he fell a little too far, it didn't work out.
Oh, shut up.
I also played this game with no sound too, for the record.
Yes! Yeah. Oh man, but this game has such a good soundtrack.
I wasn't playing for the sound. I was playing it to watch the marker go up.
Yeah, I know, but like the music's really good though.
So good.
Yeah.
It's a jam-packed Mario game. Like it like I don't know, you said that you thought it was only like the original Donkey Kong, like 4 levels. And to be fair, like
it wasn't. But when I tried this game randomly at some point with emulation, and I played the first 2 levels, I'm like, this is just Donkey Kong, and then I turned it off.
Oh,
yeah, and I remember hearing that like people thought that. I read that like in retro stuff, and I'm like, it was not marketed that way. Like you look on the back of the box, and it's got levels beyond original Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
This is.
I remember the screenshots on the box too, and yeah, they even show like I think there's one of like the city and like one of like the forest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this was just me finding the game randomly in like a ROM, downloading a bunch of Game Boy ROMs at one point, like on dial-up internet.
Okay.
Like that would have been my first experience of this. And I mean, this is one of the games that I knew of. Like I thought about, I was like, I should play that someday because people talk about it, but I just didn't. Unless I have a podcast or people that are pushing it, I'm not. There are a lot of games I just won't ever get to, and this was one of those that without you guys really being excited
I'm so
about
happy you played this. Holy shit.
No, I'm happy you guys did too. I beat this game, I think, in 2 days. Like,
nice.
I nonstop played this game. Like, I've been kind of being a little coy, but I had a blast. Like,
good.
This was a fun experience for me.
That makes me feel so happy because it's just like the fact that you've said this stuff like sometimes like just completely missing out on a game unless someone convinces you. I'm like, oh, that's so sad. You might be missing out on so many good games though. Like
I do, but that's why I listen to other people now and try to play a lot.
Yeah. Okay. No, I can totally get that.
I mean, Joseph has got me some games he's been recommending. Like one that I actually was about to plan, but I'm going to be planning hopefully at some point later this year. Astro Boy for GBA.
Good.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That game's fantastic. I have some extremely fun memories of that game.
I'm trying. That's my goal now is to do more recommendations this year and get stuff done that I've never played before.
That's a great little treasure game.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm nice.
Steal it. Everybody steal it.
Yes.
There's no way you can get money back to Treasure or to Astro Boy.
I'm sad that this game, like, why isn't this game on Switch Online?
Yeah, I know.
I don't.
So I said that there are the 3 best games outside of Tetris for the Game Boy are in no particular order: Donkey Kong 94, as we've established, Pokemon Red and Blue, and Link's Awakening. And 2 of those got complete remakes on the Switch, and this one did not.
I'm gonna say I slightly disagree. Although I think Pokemon Red and Blue are fantastic, and the Zelda Game Boy is fantastic as well. I'm going to also add to those other 2 great games, Burger Time Deluxe for the Game Boy and Lock and Chase for the Game Boy. Those games are also fantastic.
I will have to check those out. I'm sure they're on my ROM device.
Please do. They're amazing.
Never heard of them.
Oh, they're so good.
Burger Time. I don't know Burger Time Deluxe particularly.
Burger Time on Deluxe on Game Boy is like amazing. Holy shit. I discovered it on the 3DS Virtual Console back in the 2010s and just like, holy fuck, this is incredible.
So I don't like just a puzzle game that doesn't have like either a story or some kind of single player element. Like what made this game special for me was the fact that it has 96 some damn levels and that it does. I mean, I wasn't playing this for the story, obviously, but like just playing it because there was always like new levels and I was able to complete something. And for me, that's what gaming's all about.
Yeah, I like the fast levels. I like levels that are real quick. I'm the Mario 3 boy over Mario World because the levels are like in and out. This is very Mario 3 like a Nintendo classic design where it's like we're going to introduce a mechanic, we're going to fully explore it, and we're going to get in and out. Bam, and we're done. Which is also how Astrobot is. But Astrobot's a really good game. But like it's just so pure and simple how it works. Like and then it's just like throwing mechanics on mechanics. Like I texted you guys because spoiler alert, I'm playing on an emulator device because I still have my cartridge, but it's on like my pea green Game Boy. And even like Carrie, who's been on these shows, has made me like a modded GBA, but I prefer to just play on a device. My Amber
Nintendo doesn't want to let you use the game that they fully own and put it on Nintendo Switch Online.
It's fucking crazy. Like this is one of the best games of the Game Boy, and it is unplayable.
And
like I can understand
their mascots.
I can kind of understand why Metroid Prime 2 is not available, but Donkey Kong 94 is just like, Donkey Kong 94 is like, just put it out there. It's a perfect game. It might cannibalize the sales of Mario versus Donkey Kong remake. Well, then make a Donkey Kong 94 remake.
Yeah,
unless they really are making this decision based on the meme. Well, we have Donkey Kong at home. Like, no, it's not cannibalizing any sales. Yeah.
It's just weird because all the other Donkey Kong games are on the Switch Online service.
Yeah,
the
64 might be missing.
Oh yeah, it's 64, right.
Donkey Kong Land 1 through 3 is on NSO.
I do not know Donkey Kong 64.
But like Donkey Kong Land is, right?
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3.
I want to play those, by the way.
Yeah.
They put the GBC version of DKL3 on the Japanese version.
Okay.
And also, like something I will say too, though, like I feel like this game could get a remake and it wouldn't cut into the sales of Mario vs. Donkey Kong, because Mario vs. Donkey Kong is fine. It's very much a fun game in its own right. I mean, I played the Switch remake and had a blast with it, and like something that the Switch remake did that I'm so happy they expanded on was during the intro in the Game Boy Advance version, when Donkey Kong's watching TV, he switches channels, he watches a Shy Guy deliver the news, and it's just a static image. And the Nintendo Switch remake, he switches the channel, and it's a Shy Guy like moving around, delivering the news and talking, and Shy Guy talking. I'm like, yes, this is the greatest remake.
But it's a very different type game. Just because they both have Mario and both have Donkey Kong, they are two very different puzzle platformers. I don't think they would eat any of the same sales. I mean, especially with this for free. Like
Mario versus Donkey Kong 1 is very much a get the key to the lock.
Yeah,
game.
but
for the first half of it, and then you roll credits, and then it actually gets interesting. I don't know. Do we want to go into how the sequel or spiritual sequel? It's fine.
It's Lemmings.
But it's not as good. Like I was so hardcore into Donkey Kong 94. Like I was replaying this, getting into like the later worlds, and I'm like, I don't know how a 9-year-old me beat this game. I was like hemorrhaging lives
to play.
I think that's it, and I think I got real good like in a trials way of like, oh, I would die because you only save like every 4 levels, like in a classic Nintendo game like Mario World or something, and you'd only save that way. And I think, and then you would go back to 5 lives. I think there's a lot of bonuses, there's a lot of 1-ups. There's a lot of particularly even hard levels. They're like, let's just throw a 1-up at the beginning of this level because we know you're gonna die. They do that a lot in modern Mario games, but they started doing that here. And I hemorrhaged so many lives, like in the back half of this game, and I think I was so good at it that I got Mario versus Donkey Kong on day 1 in 04, and I 100%ed it in one day.
Nice.
Like that, because I was like, this is easy. This is too easy of a game. I did it in a week this last year. Like just did everything, got all 3 presents for every level, like because I'm like this is one of the few games I'm like really, really good at.
Well, your brain knows what to do, and your brain is recognizing the puzzles where there were a few puzzles in here where I had to Google what to do because I didn't.
Oh, really?
My brain could not comprehend what the game wanted. A couple where I just had to be lightning fast, and I'm one of those guys where if I know that's what you want me to do, I will figure it out. But because I'm unsure, because I keep struggling, I need to make sure this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it was, I don't remember what it was, but it was one of the later levels. There were some puzzles.
3 ladders? Was it that one where you had to do the 3 ladders? That one I wasn't doing in order right. That's the only one I had to Google.
Yes, that was one I had to Google because I didn't understand. You had to grab something in a certain combination, and I wasn't doing it right.
I didn't realize the ladders reset the timer every time you start a new one. Which I don't even know if 9-year-old. I don't even know if 9-year-old knew me that.
You had volume up, most likely, so you heard the. I mean, you can hear the sound changes, but if you have no music on, you don't hear it.
I noticed that Mario vs. Donkey Kong, at least in the Game Boy Advance version, has a timer above the key as it's going away. You know, if you let go of the key for too long, it starts flickering and then it disappears. You get like panic, like Sonic music, you know, when you're drowning. you get that same type of music. But GBA version has a little like 10, 9, 8, 7. Like, oh shit, we gotta catch it.
I have a question for Joe. I don't know if you have the same like weirdness that I do, because I know you like maps. There is something about games with world maps like this that just get me happy.
Same.
Yeah, no, I like the map of this. It just adds like another visual aspect to it, which is actually pretty impressive on the original Game Boy.
Yeah, because it's saving like 9 different huge like images.
And there's something that does it to me in games that in platformers or anything like Donkey Kong Country does it. I really like seeing a little map where my character is moving across these. I don't know what it is, but there is something that just makes me happy.
It's good, yeah. Can you even navigate? Can you walk backwards in the map, or is it just purely a visual?
No, you can't. You can't walk backwards.
No, it's
You can do
forward.
it. You can do it from the file select screen. You can press up and down like
Yeah.
a Mario with the hammer, but that's about it.
That's cool. You see, I didn't know that because I never had to load my save for some weird reason.
Yeah, that's
Like
how you could. That's how you could farm lives.
Everything was safe.
It would save your life count, which is crazy for 1994 Nintendo.
Yeah, and a Game Boy game too.
Yeah, because they would. I feel like even like Mario 64 saves your life count, doesn't it? But some of them are pretty dicey. Some of them, like when you reset your game, you're back down to 5 lives. Fuck you. So.
Well, that's probably also make sure you don't rent their game and you have to buy it. I'm sure that was a thing at that time still.
Well, there were a lot of NES games that were jacked up in difficulty from the Japanese version because they're like, oh no, Americans are renting video games. We got to jack up the difficulty.
That's yeah, pretty much. They love doing that. That's why like Fester's Quest is deliberately just doesn't explain anything because they're like, yeah, they'll make sure they don't rent it. So fuck that game. Also on this podcast too, by the way. So. The graphics I think are great in this game too, and like it just looks good. So I played the Super Game Boy version essentially on my emulation, so I did have some color, which was nice. I really like the color. I like how Donkey Kong Jr. shows up in this game too.
This is a crazy game. Yeah, DK Jr. shows up.
So isn't DK Jr. actually the Donkey Kong that we know from Donkey Kong Country? They ever said?
I thought Junior was the dad of that Donkey Kong. Cranky the grandfather?
Cranky. Well, okay. So Donkey Kong Country also came out this year. So, and it's obviously a very different game. Yeah. I don't know if we established Mario is your hero, and this is classic Donkey Kong, right? But yeah, Donkey Kong Jr. Well, Cranky is supposed to be Donkey Kong Senior, the Donkey Kong from the Donkey Kong games. Junior may or may not be DK, and then Diddy is somebody else entirely. But yeah, like this game is like. You would think like, oh, it's Mario and Donkey Kong, okay, and then Pauline, the girlfriend, is there, obviously, and then Donkey Kong Jr. shows up a few worlds in, and you're like, hey, buddy, what you doing? And he's like doing great assistant stuff, and then the funniest thing to me is the game doesn't need to do this, but like on like world 9-4 or 9-5, you lock up DK Jr., which is like one of my favorite levels. It made me cheer. Where you like climb up chains and you actually put locks on DK Jr., which they introduced nuke mechanics in the 5th level of the final world. It's crazy. That's the kind of game this is. And you lock up DK Jr. and then he's out of the game. Like narratively, they kicked him out of the rest of the game, so it's just you and Donkey Kong for the rest of the game. Like I think it's like chef's kiss, like beautiful little storytelling that was like. Pointless. Nobody needs to notice it, but I noticed it this time.
Also, the music in that final area is just epic, and like, there's that one song that da 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 da. That song is incredible.
Yeah, it's so good.
Also, I think this is the last game that DK Jr. is actually in.
Is he not in any Mario Karts?
He's in the first one.
He was in the first one.
That's like 91 or 92.
Yeah, 92.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think Diddy just kind of replaced them.
Yeah. I forgot that's Donkey Kong Jr. in Mario Kart. I need to replay Mario Kart for this podcast.
You should.
I've been saying that for like, this podcast is 6 years old. 5 years.
Yeah, you should though.
Yeah, because Donkey Kong's not in it, but Junior is because he's wearing like the shirt with the J on it. Yeah.
He's wearing the tank top.
I forgot that you lock him up and then he disappears in this game. Like I did not. I remember him being in this game. I remember the cage, but I didn't realize that was the last time you see him.
Yeah, it is the last time. Is he in the final image when you're like?
Yeah, he is.
In the credits.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
The credits. We're jumping ahead.
Fine.
Yeah, in the credits, you take a picture with Donkey Kong, Pauline, and Donkey Kong Jr.
It's the big cast photo, and everyone's smiling. It's like, oh, see, look, we all love each other. Huh?
Yeah. I also like the distinct worlds that they do, like the city, the pirate ship, the fort, the jungle. Like I think all that is really good to just add that little extra excitement to the game.
Yeah.
Papaz.
Yeah.
That was some word I wanted, but I'm like, I don't know what the word is, so I'm just gonna.
I mean, airplane is bullshit with its wind. It's like
Yeah,
propeller
that's-
night from
that's
shoveling.
really
yes.
annoying. I like that it is an airplane though. Like that blew my mind as a kid. Like, whoa, I'm on an this is an airplane world. And then like when you get to the glacier world, it's like, oh my god, this is and like it like also kind of proved to me that even in a perfect game like this, like, oh, I still hate ice worlds. They're fucking annoying. Like,
Yeah,
They are.
like Japan. I need to ask you as a whole nation, dear all Japanese video game developers who have ever existed, what fucking made you think that like playing in an ice world in a video game is fun? Like, how's that fun?
yeah. The Americans, they hate, and the North Americans, they love the friction, right? They love when we take away the friction. They
Yeah,
love
exactly.
it. It's so much fun, right?
North Americans, they're used to, they got snow up there. Yeah, let's make them. Here, snow. Have some snow and ice. There
Let
you go.
them slip on their asses. Yeah, come on.
Fuck you. Here you go.
First time I did see snow, I did slip completely on it and fall on my ass. I was not ready for
I'm
it.
sorry. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at that, but just whoa, just
It's rained.
Right
It snowed like 4 times in my entire life down here in Texas, and one of them was last week.
of course.
So,
Well, you guys also had that big apocalyptic one from like 2 years ago. That was pretty
yeah,
nasty.
we reelected all of those politicians. It was great. It was a
Yeah,
great
I know,
time.
that's awesome. You thought
You should
Hey,
re-elect
these-
Ted Cruz. I mean, it's not like he abandoned his state and went to Mexico or anything. No.
Yep.
No,
Yeah, we sure did.
oh, hey,
Fuck that guy.
I agree.
Also, did you have a favorite world in this game, or one that stuck out to you when you were younger?
I would probably people mention the airplane one just because when you get to that part, it just seems really out of place compared to everything else that had been before them, with like the
Mhm.
forest
Yeah,
and things like that. And then it just, I also feel like that's the area where really definitely, I don't want to say a difficulty spike, but definitely you got to start thinking differently with the puzzles when you get to that area.
Yeah, that's the one that introduces like fake locks. Like
Yeah.
there's like 4 locks in the level, and you
Uh-huh.
have to pay attention at the beginning, like where Pauline is going to scream from. And I think
Yeah.
World 7 was the one where I texted you guys like, is the emulator messing up and the locks just aren't appearing, or is that just how the game was? Like you just have to remember, like, oh yeah, the
Mhm.
lock is here.
yeah, and plus
What is that?
Game Boy emulation is pretty near perfect at this point. Like
Yeah.
you'd have to have a pretty shitty emulator that would like not do that to like just stop that. Like that's super weird.
I think that's a normal fear with emulation, though, that like you think that something is glitching just because it's just the nature of of what you're doing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I was wondering the same thing, and I actually looked up a video, and because I'm like, and then I just see the guy just go to an invisible spot, and I'm like, oh, okay. And once I realized that, then I would just like, part of me would just run around with a key and see what happened, and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna look up where the hell to go. There was one where you had to make like bridges, and it was in a certain spot. So then I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna see what the guy does.
Yeah. Like Joseph just said, like his favorite world. Like my favorite world is the jungle world, because that is where it turns into just Donkey Kong Jr. Like
yeah,
like
straight up.
it's like ostensibly
Yeah.
like this game starts out and you like think it's like, oh, it's very Donkey Kong, or at least like an extrapolation of Donkey Kong, 10 15 years later. Mario's got a similar moveset, although he's got a lot more jump in his step. But then they add in like all the vine climbing from
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Jr. They add in switches that you pull. Like it's just much more, and you have like the little like berries that you can like make fall on your enemies. It's very cool, and then it also is like weirdly like Super Mario 2. Like you can I don't remember. Does this game have Shy Guys or not? Or am I confusing with the other one?
No, this game doesn't have Shy Guys.
But it doesn't have Shy Guys. Mario vs. DK does. But you
Yeah.
jump on enemies and you can like ride on them like in Mario
Yeah.
2. You don't jump
Yeah.
on them like a Goomba and they disappear. And you can pick up some of them just like Mario 2. And even the key is kind of like Mario 2, like because Mario 2 does have a key that's very, very similar. Other than the crazy face monster thing comes and chases you if you pick up the key. That would have been a cool thing to add to a sequel.
Yeah.
I'm okay that wasn't there.
And then, but like it's just like it's such a crazy build of things. And then in the back half of the game, it just turns into like mean Mario Maker levels. Like especially World 8 just felt like the waterfalls levels. It's like I think somebody mean in Mario Maker made this level to just fuck with me.
And World 9 is nothing but boss fights. Like the entire thing is just boss fights.
It's classic Donkey Kong again. It's so good. It's so good. It's like we could have made a whole game of classic Donkey Kong and just like extrapolating without the key stuff. And that's what World 9 is. It's so good. It's so good.
Yes.
And then it's also like crazily introducing like new sprites and new enemy types throughout. Like like this isn't crazy for a Game Boy game. Like the Ice World, Kyle, you mentioned, like has bespoke like walruses for just one level that like charge at you, and an octopus that does something to you, and you can swim in this game. Like what the fuck?
Yeah. And then it's also just like, man, thank you, Mario, for teaching me that walruses are actually really fucking dangerous. I never would have realized that. Thank you.
There's bullet hell levels in World 6.
Exactly.
Like, which is great. I don't think the Game Boy can have like 6 sprites moving on screen, but somehow this game manages it. It's crazy. It's just a crazy game.
No, it really is. And it's not what you expect at all.
It's so good. I keep thinking, like, I keep wishing that when they were like having like Mario Maker 2 came out and they're like, we might have some DLC packs. If they made a Donkey Kong 94 Maker, and just like that would be my dream. Like keep it small, like Celeste styles levels, and just made like tiny single screen Donkey Kong 94 levels. Or you could do the tile set of classic Donkey Kong and Mario vs. DK and the remake, and you could have like 4 tile sets. But Donkey Kong Maker would be like my ultimate jam of a game, and I think people could really like create some really, really cool stuff.
Yes.
I agree.
To answer the question too of like my favorite maps, I'm gonna say I love the city map. My map selections though with my favorite maps, I like them because I like the levels in them, but I also like their map music, like the music that plays when you're on the map screen. Like I love the city music, I love that. I love the forest map. I love the song that plays on that map screen. It's so cute. Like it's such a cute little song. And also I love the levels in the forest where you ride the ladybugs because it's like I want to ride on a ladybug. What the fuck, Mario? I want to ride on a ladybug.
But then they put like one scary monster in the middle of all 3 ladybugs. You're like, ooh, gotta be careful here.
The weird, scary little spiky bugs. I'm like, I don't know what those are, but they look scary. I don't want to.
They were really blurry on the Game Boy, original Game Boy. I had no idea what they were supposed to be.
Yeah, I know, just weird spiky things that look like they have spikes. So like, I like the forest one. I really like the jungle map music. I like the jungle. The jungle's really good. The music on that is like really foreboding though, and it sounds really good. I also though it has probably the hardest levels like puzzle wise in the game, I like the pyramid, the pyramid map music. That song's really catchy. I also really like just the ninth map music. That track is also really good, and the levels in that map are just fantastic because, like I said, it's all boss fights, and it's just like, oh my god, they're just pushing you to the limit. I love it.
Yeah, there's like that one level where you have to like fall and catch yourself on springs.
Yes.
Oh my god, that was such a hard level. But that's
Some
one of the
do get
ones where, huh? What'd you say, Mike?
Some do get really challenging though.
Yeah, that was a fucking Mario Maker level. That was like good fucking luck, man. You got to know how long you'll fall before he'll drop that key. And there was like wind blowing, so you couldn't just throw the key a far distance.
Oh god, that was
what a level.
That was fucking ridiculous. Also, I just remembered another level that introduces a thing and it never really does anything with it again. Well, actually, it does a couple of times. In the forest world, or the forest map, there's a level that's like, it's a single screen, like most of the levels, but like this is like a particularly small level. But what it is that your key is right beside the exit, but you need to open up a gate. But there's these there are these little like Venus flytrap flowers that shoot projectiles at you, and you have to climb up while avoiding their shots and like grab and open the door and then go back down. And I always thought that was interesting because those enemies don't really appear much in the game after that. They're just in that one level and like I think 2 other levels, and it's just like oh yeah, that's just weird. Like just these weird flowers that shoot projectiles at you.
They're like they're from, I feel like they're in Mario World, like in the early worlds where they like it's like they just throw like 4 fireballs that kind of slowly descend upon you. Yeah,
they're just weird. Like they're not like piranha plants, or like they're just like actual flowers, but they shoot stuff at you. And I think that also gave me another fear as a kid. Like, do flowers in real life shoot things at you? Because I'm kind of scared now.
I was scared of those flowers that are standing there, and then they open up and they look like just like a face with big ears, and they run at you.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, that's terrifying.
Yeah, those. I just realized, or I just remembered because I'm watching a video of this. This game had armadillos. I have a weird fascination where I always wanted a pet armadillo when I was a kid, but I lived in Wisconsin. We
we don't have pet armadillo. I mean, they're just possums with a turtle shell.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know it's a normal thing for you. Like, oh, it's it's an armadillo. Okay, today's a Tuesday. Like it's not
Yeah,
a big,
they're-
Yeah,
they need to
exactly.
be like,
Well, I mean, our joke down here is that I've never seen a live armadillo until I was in my 30s because they're roadkill, even in neighborhoods, sadly. But no, we've got quite a few of them, and they're fucking adorable as shit. And they are like all over. They would also they would take us to like our like elementary schools, and they would put them on like the overhead projectors and be like, "Look at this cute armadillo." When we were in like elementary school, I'm like, "Oh my god!" And then it would poop on the overhead projector. We're like, "Oh my god, armadillos are amazing!" They're so cute.
I always wanted one as a pet. I did get the pet one once because when I was up here, there was a friend of mine who had like a little animal show that his mother ran. When I went to his house, and he's like, I was able to pet his little armadillo, but he said, "Watch out," because he gets mad at you. He'll close his shell to hurt you.
Oh no!
So he's like, "Watch out."
Armadillo King, starring Mike, coming on Netflix next year.
I would watch it.
But yes, I've been a fan of armadillos in that sense.
There's so many bespoke enemies. Like it is, and it is crazy how many different enemy types and like mechanic types there are in this game. Because like it's I think it's the jungle world. It's one of the worlds where like they always have switches where you like open up like flooring that you can then close, and we have to use that mechanic to make the ladybugs fall into spikes, so then you could walk on them. There's all sorts of crazy things, like floors that fall apart as you walk on them. There's like arrows that you put to make ladders, or they can create like a walking platform that you run across. I mean, it is like every single world. I remember just being a kid, at daycare and being like, they just introduced some new shit. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. And this whole world is about this. It's like such a masterclass in like introducing new mechanics in like such a small little tight little box that you can like really like truly figure out how every mechanic works. Like, it's fascinating to me.
I'm really hoping you said all that as a little kid at daycare. Oh my god, they're introducing so much shit. What the fuck?
honestly, it was probably like, you don't even know. We were doing Beavis and Butthead impressions is what we honestly were probably doing. You fell on the cliff because you didn't see the timer. Oh, dumbass. It was probably what we were doing, but I love the idea of fourth grade me.
Also, one thing we haven't even talked about yet is this game has like every 4 levels you have to like kind of chase after Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
And isn't it like, I want to say like this where you you have to kind of like jump and he's throwing barrels at you, so it's kind of like Donkey Kong. And then the end of every world you have like an actual boss fight with Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Which is damn cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they get a little repetitive because it's just like throwing like 3 or 4 barrels at him.
But personally liked it.
Same.
But it's like it's so like we're gonna have like conveyor belts, but then Donkey Kong Jr. is gonna fuck with your conveyor belts, and then like it's like, oh, it looks like, oh, that's really easy to just get to Donkey Kong. Like, haha, but there's like some switch that you have to walk across the entire level, and that's where things get perilous. And then that way you can open up the gate. Like it extrapolates classic Donkey Kong in such a crazy way to just get to the top in a way that I feel is like fun and fair, in a way that I never really liked classic Donkey Kong.
I can get that.
It's like Mario is much less mobile than he is in like classic Super Mario. Like Super Mario can fall like, he does the beginning of Super Mario True. You can fall, screens. Mario can maybe fall like 2 of his height lengths before he like or dies or drops the keys, or whatever. But man, it's just like those Donkey Kong levels are so good. Like we could do all these things. And then the fights against him are fun. And then the final world is just like all that. And then I like when he smashes things down. And I like also that it has game mechanics that it doesn't teach you until later. Like I use the handstand constantly to do like double jumps. Like I'm always doing a handstand. And that also like any falling projectiles aside from the fireballs from that plant. Yeah, Mario's feet can smoosh and can kick away. So like anything that Donkey Kong makes fall from the sky, you should use the handstand and then you can do a double jump. And what's cool is then the game also has like interstitials between those 4 levels where like you get a little cartoon where Mario chases Donkey Kong and then Donkey Kong puts some obstacle. And then that's Mario like is like, haha, and like points his little finger up in the air and then he's like, I know how to solve this. And he'll do like a double jump or a backwards flip or some shit like that to be like, oh, I guess I can do that in the game. Although I'm sure me and Kyle already knew that from the instruction manual.
Yeah, we did.
So it's just so many different mechanics and the way it like doles them out and teaches you them through like animations. And it's so clever through like silence. It doesn't have any words. Like you don't have a voice box like in Mario World telling you like, you're probably in this world. If you jump and press B, then you'll avoid the enemy. Like none of that. It doesn't tell you that, any of that shit. It's so good.
Also, I'm just amazed, and like this kind of like also kind of shocked me as a kid too. Of like weird video game stuff that I found creepy at times is like all the ways Mario can die in this game, just like, especially like if you accidentally touch the fireballs in the game, and you just like you're burnt to a fucking crisp, and you just like the sound effect the game makes when you accidentally burn yourself, like wow sound. I can't do it. It's really hard to do, but like you just burn yourself to a crisp, and there's like Mario's like roasted corpse just laying there with a little halo above his head, and it's just, that like fucked me up as a kid. And then like I remember, okay, this is the only time I'll bring it up as a thing, and I'm gonna say the actual website name and not the stupid new name. On Twitter, I remember a good friend of mine, Bador, I was actually tweeting this as like kind of a joke, but I was also semi-serious as a tweet where it's like, I'm sorry, but I actually found it really disturbing in the Game Boy Donkey Kong game when like, if Mario touches fire, he's like burnt alive and he dies, and there's a little halo above his head, and you see his like burnt corpse, and I'm just like, that's fucked up. And then my friend Bador replied, it's like, well, but look, it's okay. He has a halo above his head. He's going to heaven. And then he put a smiley face. I'm sorry, that fucked me up. Like, that's so fucked. Like, it's okay though. He's going to heaven. Like, he was burnt alive. Holy shit. I'm sorry. That's fucked me up for so long in my life. Like, it's okay though. He's going to heaven.
Is it bad when people say heaven? I hear heaven. I think I was in heaven. Someone gets that joke when I'm singing.
I love that episode
Okay.
so much.
I do.
I'm sorry, but I just love that. It's like, no, it's okay, kids. Mario didn't die. There's a halo. See, it's okay. He's
Hey,
all
if
right.
Dragon Ball Z taught me anything, you can have a halo above your head and you still get to come down and visit Earth. So,
Yes,
hey.
exactly.
Well, I've been watching too much Dragon Ball Z lately. I'm playing it. I'm in a big Dragon Ball mood lately. Big Dragon. Okay.
Dragon Ball's good stuff.
It is. The final boss fight in this game is also pretty damn impressive for a Game Boy game.
Oh yeah.
It's hard and annoying,
yeah.
but damn impressive.
Yeah, you get like well, it felt like at the time like a full screen size sprite of Donkey Kong fighting him, and then his big giant hands. It's only like half the screen, which is still very impressive. Like that's also a completely bespoke sprite for one level that they put in there. That one is really hard. That's a longer battle. That one actually, I don't know honestly how I did that one as a kid, because that's the only level I had to save Scum. Because he was introducing like new kill mechanics like halfway through the level.
You have to hit him 3 times for each form, and he has 3 forms, so it's 9 hits, and you're dead in 1.
I can't remember if you die because the world looks like it's only 8 levels, and then that's the new 9-9 level. I can't remember if you die if you have to go back to 9-8 or not. I cannot remember if that's.
I'm assuming not, but I was cheating, so I have no idea.
I also could have hemorrhaged enough lives and had to like completely like walk it back, but I feel like I had to redo it. But that was a really hard level. Like he would smash his hands, and like he killed the barrels that you needed to like throw at him like real quickly. Like timing was quick on that battle. That was a tough battle, but man, they get rid of the HUD. Just like Mario World, your final battle against Bowser. They get rid of the HUD so you don't see like your life counter or anything like that. It's just like chef's kiss. It's like it's an epic battle. The music is great. So
It really
good.
is.
Yeah, it is.
I was impressed that they put that much in a little Game Boy game. So, and I wasn't expecting that in this game. Like, I was like really surprised when I got there. So I was like, damn, this is cool. This is good. I mean, I can see it being a challenge. Like, if you're playing this legit, like, I could see that younger Mike would have been swearing a lot. Or not swearing, but because I wouldn't have been swearing. But very upset. But then again, I did beat Mega Man Wily's Revenge when I was a kid somehow.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a hard game.
That is, and I actually, and I never beat any other Mega Man game as a kid, but I did beat that game as a kid. So that always impresses me when I think about like, oh, I did that. So I haven't beat a lot of games when I was a kid, but I beat that one actually. So I'm always like, oh, you did that, Mike. So, but no, it's just I can see it being very annoying.
Yeah, I can see that way too.
But it's your final boss battle, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's fair that it's challenging. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but it is fair for that you would have something like that at the very end of this game. Yeah, no, it doesn't bother me in that aspect because it makes sense. It feels legit. It feels worthy. It's a good ending. I just still can't believe they packed all this into this Game Boy game that I never heard about until randomly on Player One podcast mentioned it, and then we did the year in gaming. You guys really talked about it. Like, it's just weird to me that as like I'm a guy who's been around playing games all this time. Like, and this is somehow just really slipped by me until last week when I finally played it.
It is crazy for a Game Boy game. Like, just like the context of it, and like it's named Donkey Kong. It's not Donkey. I mean, on the box, like we all call it Donkey Kong 94. And I think Nintendo Power called it that, and it may be that in other territories, but it was just Donkey Kong. And if it was released in 94, or at least been 89, 90, it would have been like all the original Game Boy launch games. It would have been 4 levels, kind of look like NES, and that would have been it. And you'd be kind of like, meh, okay, I'll rent this. I'll borrow it from my friends. It'll be fun. I'll loop the levels a few times, but it'll be and then, but it's in the context of 94. Like, I was also playing like Kirby's Dream Land 1, which was 5 levels. I was playing Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan, which is like 5 or 6 levels. Mario Land was maybe like 16 levels, maybe less, 12. Mario Land 2 is like 30 something levels. Like, we're talking, and they're much bigger levels and much more involved. But like, the value proposition was like, this is 96 levels of Mario, man. It saves, it's got different worlds, it's got crazy mechanics. Look what you can do. You have an awesome fight with Donkey Kong at the end. There's so much to do. Like, this is the one we chipped away at because we were hemorrhaging lives constantly. Like, it's such a jam-packed 1994 Game Boy game. And it's crazy because it's not like in the final, like, because Game Boy is like kind of on its way out by like 94, 95. Yeah. It's a 6-year-old system at that point. Mm-hmm. And then like Pokemon brings it back and gives it a second life.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I have this theory that the Virtual Boy is the intended Game Boy successor. Like, it's all the Game Boy thing. Like, the Virtual Boy is a 32-bit Game Boy with the weird goggles. Like, if it was a 32-bit, it's also got only like 4 colors and it's black and white, only it's red and black, right? If the Virtual Boy was a handheld 32-bit system that was black and white in 95, that makes sense as the Game Boy successor to me. But that's a different story for a different time. Like, the Game Boy is kind of done, and even like Nintendo's like, I don't know if this is going to sell on Game Boy. Let's release the Super Game Boy just to like goose up like Game Boy cartridge sales in case people are not buying Game Boys. We'll release the Super Game Boy for $60. We'll gussy some stuff up. Like, and then also simultaneously, this is like trying to promote Donkey Kong Country, their Thanksgiving game for this year, is like bringing, because Donkey Kong is not even in Mario Kart. Donkey Kong has done shit for years. Like, he's not even in Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Like this is bringing him back.
It's friggin' Donkey Kong Jr. that's in friggin' Mario Kart.
What's the last original Donkey Kong before this? Is it Math? Is it Donkey Kong Jr.?
Yeah.
Probably
Donkey Kong 3. Donkey Kong 3, yeah.
It's been 10 years since an original.
Prisoner in that one.
You know, this is something that I think about with the Game Boy at this period of time and what you're bringing up with it, like 1994, 95. Like, here's the thing, though. For as much as, like, Nintendo was worried, like, oh, I think the Game Boy might be done, like, what else did people have for this type of thing, though? Like a portable
Tiger Electronics?
Yeah.
One friend had a Lynx?
Oh, God. Like, I mean, there could be a chance that, like, you or like someone you know was like the super rich kid, and maybe you got an Atari Lynx, or maybe you got a, what do you call it? Well, a Game Gear.
The Nomad.
A Game Gear.
I love the Nomad.
Or like the portable TurboGrafx 16.
Yeah, never saw that one.
Like, and even then too, like, the Game Boy was the only like portable console that was actually not. I'm not gonna say like it wasn't the only good one, but like it was the only one that was actually portable. Like, yeah. I'm not saying you could fit a Game Boy in like your actual pocket, like a classic Game Boy, but like with the Game Boy Pocket, you could, and even then, like, you know, like the Game Boy games were small, and like the Game Boy at that time period, like, what else was there on the market that was actually that good as well as being portable? Like, Nintendo kind of had a perfect thing in the market at that point of like, oh yeah, there's no one really else coming for us. Like, it's just like, yeah, we're the only thing that's kind of going at this point. Like,
I would say Game Gear was kind of even done by this point.
Yeah, like the only
Saturn's about out. Yeah, like I feel like Sega's moving on, right?
94, 95 for Game Gear was like you'll get the occasional like sports game and like
more combat port.
Yeah, and like crappy American developed game. And I say crappy because like there are good Game Gear games, and here's the thing though, like most of the time when you play good Game Gear games, they're Japanese developed.
The only like one where a Game Gear, like, and this is me, my Nintendo Boy coming out. The Game Gear NBA Jam is actually like legitimately good. Like they had like their A team on it. Like that one is actually like legitimately good. And the Game Boy one is real terrible. But like the Game Gear, like Battletoads is terrible.
Nintendo is kind of sorry, not to diverge, but just really quick little side note. But like Nintendo was kind of weird with NBA Jam because Sega always got the better version of that. Because for one thing, and this really bothered me, especially as a kid, there's no fucking music in the Super Nintendo port of NBA Jam. Like, none of the NBA Jam games on Super Nintendo had fucking music, but the Sega Genesis ports of NBA Jam had music when you're playing the game, and it's just like, what? Why do they fucking not have music? I don't get this. Like,
but now you have to remember what Sega does when the 10 don't.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. I was just waiting to get that joke.
Because NBA Jam is just nice.
Sorry, Mike. I'm sorry.
Is it just shoe squeaks and Tim Kritzkrow just talking?
Yeah, just like the everyone's sneakers squeaking on the court, and like
crazy.
The occasional comment of like he's on fire. Like like that's just. Yeah, like Sega was always weirdly good with like the NBA Jam ports. But anyway, sorry. But yeah, like this was such a weird period of the Game Boy's life because I feel like a lot of people will also say that like, oh yeah, the Game Boy was just kind of like floating along until like Pokemon. Like the 94 period was also kind of interesting because you would actually get the rare kind of actually not rare, but like you'd get these like shockingly competent like Game Boy games like this, or like you'll get a game like Mole Mania or like Kirby Star Stacker or Kirby's Block Ball, the Arkanoid game. Kirby, you'll get these like occasional, or hell, like I mentioned earlier, because I love those two games so much, Lock and Chase and Burger Time Deluxe. Like you'll get these like really well made, like made just for the Game Boy games. So they're like, oh, these are extremely hyper competent and they know exactly what they're trying to do and they're fucking excellent. And Donkey Kong is one of those examples of that. Like this is made strictly just for this one thing, the Game Boy, and it's extremely competent. It knows exactly what it's doing and it's fucking like fantastic.
Yep, 100%.
Right. Any last things you guys want to say about Donkey Kong 94?
So a little bit like my dream game when I was there is like I was always expecting a Donkey Kong 97 or Donkey Kong Jr. 97. I don't know why. I feel like that's my dream game is a Donkey Kong Jr. version of this game. In retrospect, like looking at it, like the Donkey Kong Jr. stuff is in here. It's just Mario doing like the Vine stuff. Like you're getting the experience. Like the sequel, I played Mario vs. Donkey Kong. I was on a episode of Super Switch Heads when the remaster came out or the remake, and it's fine, but like it's over quick, but it's heavily reliant on 3-color puzzles. Like there's 3 switches in almost every level, yellow, red, and blue, that you are somehow manipulating to make like part of the level appear or disappear. And most of the puzzles are based around that. And it doesn't seem to capture like the creativity or the wealth of mechanics that Donkey Kong 94 has. Like it's a very bizarre game. Like it's fine in a vacuum, but like it doesn't anywhere compare to like the amount of creativity and jam-packedness of the Donkey Kong 94. And so like I'm sad that they have not figured out a way to like remake this level. And I think it is smart to put Mario in the title of it. I think that's a smart choice. But like I'm like, where is this coming? And I think like I keep thinking like Donkey Kong Maker, man, because I feel like especially in the world of Splatformers, your Super Meat Boys, your Celestes, like there is an appetite for people to just make like Kaizo fuck you single screen Donkey Kong levels.
Yes.
Where you do this. And I feel like I'd be really good at it. And because I don't like Mario Maker that much, the levels are too long. But that's my dream, is to have either Donkey Kong Maker or Donkey Kong Jr. 97 or 2027. I don't really care at this point. But those are my dreams. I think this is an absolute like banger, #1 best Game Boy game there is. So that's my final thoughts on this game.
Okay. Joseph or Kyle?
I'll let Joe go first. Sorry, I know I've been blurting out a lot of stuff and been on tangents. I'll let Joe go first. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Oh wait, are we doing box?
Not yet. I just wanted to see if you guys have any last thing to say about the game.
I mean, these two have really covered a lot of it. It is just from a technical standpoint, it's probably one of the most, if not the most impressive game on the system. The only thing I think that maybe be a little bit better than it would be like Pokemon Silver and Gold, but those came out so late in the Game Boy's lifespan at that point. But yeah, this is pretty much as close to perfection as you can get in any sort of game, just from the animation, the puzzles, the gameplay. Yeah, this is a game that everyone should play, and Nintendo needs to figure out how to get this thing re-released immediately.
Somehow I don't think they care.
The amount of Donkey Kong that they keep putting in, like they made a Donkey Kong Park, and they can't release this game.
They did.
Hey, one's cheaper than the other.
Donkey Kong
making a park
Land,
is cheaper. Hey, who would guess?
Donkey Kong Land 1 through 3. Donkey Kong Country's Game Boy Color port will make it to NSO before Donkey Kong 94 will.
I actually really do want to play Donkey Kong Land now. Like, after playing this, I know completely different games. I'm like, I've never did play any of the Donkey Kong Land. It's now.
You can also read the novelization, which I've read to my kid. It's awful. That game is insane. That game, I covered this all on my channel. All my friends are right here on YouTube. I can send you guys the link, but it is the most Donkey Kong Land 1 is insane. It's basically a game where it's like, the only reason the instruction manual says, Cranky Kong says to them, is like, the only reason people like Donkey Kong Country is because of the graphics. I want y'all to do it on the Game Boy where the graphics aren't as good, and then I'll challenge you the same levels to see if you can still play a good game. That's text in the instruction manual. So Cranky Kong and King K. Rool send Donkey Kong and Diddy on another mission just to prove that the game wasn't just a one-trick pony on graphics. It's insane. That's the text in the instruction manual. It's insane. I love it. Sorry. That's my tangent. Kyle, go on some tangents. Let's do it.
All right. Well, my final thoughts are, I just think this game is perfect. Even for the things I don't like about this game, it's still fucking perfect. And that's the thing about me too. Like, even the video games I consider perfect, there's still things that I quote unquote don't like about them, but like I can still look past them because like everything else is perfect. And this game is perfect. It's 10 out of 10. It's A plus. It's fuck A. It's S tier. It's S plus tier. This is one of the greatest games, not only on the Game Boy, but just of all time. It's such a classic. This game is one of the reasons why I love the Game Boy so much, and why I still sing the praises of the Game Boy, and why I hate when people try to not dunk on the Game Boy, but like when people try to shut the Game Boy down as this like, it's just a console that just had watered down NES ports. I'm like, no, fuck you. You are totally wrong. This game
NES couldn't have done this.
Yeah, games like this, games like Lock and Chase, games like Burger Time Deluxe, games like Mole Mania, games like Pokemon, games like Mario Land 2, games like just like the Final Fantasy Legend games or the Saga games, if you want to be more technical. Like, there are so many games that prove the Game Boy is something to behold and something that's really special, and it's not just some weak crap that people like to try to dismiss it as. Like, the Game Boy is so much damn more than what people dismiss it as, and it really bothers me when people dismiss it as that. And yeah, I love this game so much. This is an excellent game. This is a perfect game. One of the very best out there. If anybody who has not played this yet, please go play this. Like, find whatever way you can to play this. Get the cartridge, download the ROM, whatever the hell you can find, whatever the hell way you can to play this game. Please play it. Oh my God, please do play it.
I think we should go into Shelf Stacker Box, which we kind of already did without the ratings. And Kyle, do you want to bring us into Shelf Stack Box?
Yeah, okay, well, sure. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I'm going to say shelf. Immediately shelf.
Oh, I was worried on the tension there. I was like, greatest game ever.
I know.
Probably going to go in the box.
No, it's going to go in the garbage. Fuck this game.
I have said that before on this podcast.
But yeah, no, this game's immediately going on the shelf. I'll display the game. If I can find a way to save the box, I would, because, the sad thing about a lot of Nintendo releases is that it was all in cardboard and everything, and it's like, damn it, it's hard to preserve this stuff. But like, I would make a photocopy of the instruction booklet if I could. I would, whatever way I could display this, I could display this game. I would buy a poster of a recreation of the box art and hang it on my, whatever way I could display my love for this game, I would. This game is easily on my shelf.
All right, and Joseph.
Yeah, this is absolutely a shelf. There's no doubt about it. We've all said this multiple times, one of the best games, or arguably the best game on the Game Boy. And just one of the best games, period. And yeah, it should be on everyone's shelf. There should not be any debate about that.
All right. And I'll go next. I'm going to put this on the shelf also. I had a great time. This is not my style game at all, even though I played 3 puzzle platformers in the last 2 weeks for some weird reason.
Mm-hmm.
Not my favorite, not my style game, but I had a great time. I really enjoyed this game. As I said earlier, I beat it in 2 days. I just couldn't put it down. I just had a blast. I just couldn't. It was so much fun. So, and I'm very thankful that Vince, because of all 3 of you, I finally played this game. So, thank you guys for getting me to do something I wouldn't have done otherwise. So, yeah, go on the shelf. And Vince, why don't you close us out?
I'm also gonna put it on the shelf. I think this is a top 10 all-time game for me. I think playing all the best games of the Game Boy again, I think that this is my favorite Game Boy game. Definitely, it's up there with Link's Awakening. I also just think I don't even know what to say. As Kyle said, I would probably also just get if I get an art print of the box art, I would put that on here. I think it's just it's a perfect game. I'm glad we play it. I'm also just happy that the nostalgia goggles weren't there. Because I was on the Super Switch Head podcast talking about Mario vs. Donkey Kong, and one of the hosts was like, "Well, I played this and DK94 back to back, and I like this. I like Mario vs. Donkey Kong more than Donkey Kong 94, or Mario vs. Donkey Kong more than." And that's what I thought. And I was like, I think he's wrong. But then again, I also haven't played DK94 in about 10 years, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I didn't give
that
Mario
host
vs.
is wrong.
I have no affiliation with with this game. I have played Mario vs. Donkey Kong. It has been over 15 years. I think this is more fun.
Right. I played them both in the last year, and I started going into Mario vs. DK again, the GBA one, which I beat so quickly that I had low thoughts about it. I like Mario vs. Donkey Kong a lot more than I did 20 years ago, but I'm happy to say that Donkey Kong 94 holds up really well. This is exactly when I went out of a platformer. When friends recommend Celeste to me, I'm like, Celeste is fine, but it's not Donkey Kong 94. That's where I'm at. This is the perfect itch for me. And it's, again, like I said, it hits the same places that Portal does, Quantum Conundrum, all those type of you're in a small room, figure out the problem games. I love this type of game, and I think that Donkey Kong 94 either instilled the love into me, and that's why it's still number 1 in my heart, or if it's just is that fucking good still. And I think that might be the latter too. I'm glad the nostalgia goggles weren't on. This is a really, really good game.
It is. All right. I guess we should go to plugs. And Kyle, where can we find you at?
Well, you can find me on Blue Sky at chibiufo.bsky.social, and you can find my podcast, the Unidentified Flying Obsession Podcast, wherever you find your podcasts. Once again, that is the UFO podcast, or to spell it out, the Unidentified Flying Obsession Podcast.
Oh, right. And I can't remember, Joseph, do you have anything to plug?
No, you can just find me in the Discord posting pictures of my food.
It's actually pretty good looking food, by the way, too. You are a good baker.
Yeah,
I have not tasted it, unfortunately, yet, because you live on the other side of the country than me, but I am curious, too.
That food looks pretty tasty.
It really does.
Thank you.
And Vince.
You can find me on the Some of My Friends Read Comics podcast. We are nearing our 10th anniversary. About every other week, we cover a monumental comic that's worth covering. Mike was on our Super Metroid Nintendo Power comic episode a few years ago. We've covered things relevant to video games like the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time manga. We also covered more recently, we've covered Batman Hush, as well as the death of Elektra. So those are the things that we've covered more recently. But if there's a monumental comic outside of Watchmen and stuff by people that are, less than savory folks these days, we've probably covered that comic in some capacity. So come check us out at Some of My Friends Read Comics.
All right. And if you enjoyed this podcast, there is over 750 other episodes of this show. We do video games, comics, TV shows, movies. I know, I don't stop. It's been ridiculous. The amount I've been releasing and producing in these last...
We're about to hit 250 over 10 years, but good Lord, 750, wow.
I'm at 6 years and I'm over 750 at the moment.
Wow, good job.
Insanity is the word you're looking for, but yes.
You know what? We can prescribe things for that, but or podcasts.
Hey, I love it.
Did you see that SNL sketch a few weeks ago? It was with Men's Health Podcast, and it was it's good. It's about men don't go to the doctor, and it's hey bro, how about you come on our podcast? And the doctor's like, whoa, flex your muscles. Let's put this blood pressure machine on you. Let's see how high your blood pressure can go. All right, bro. So they prescribe things. So think about that. Podcast mental health is a good time. Timothy
So
Chalamet.
do all that. If you want to support, should we do a Patreon? Little doggy vote in our Patreon poll. We have 1 to 2 polls a month. Great way to support the show and affect the show. If you want to be on the show, if you want to chat with us, if you want to lurk and just make the number go up in Discord and make me smile, I'm okay with that too. And suggest things that I will get to, because I'm making an effort this year to clear off a lot of the lists of things that people have suggested. Join our Discord. It is free, and you will see a link in the show notes of every episode for a long time. So definitely go do that. Join, please. I'm always happy new people join us. You don't have to chat. Just join. Lurk. I don't care. Just join. And as long as you're not a Twitter bot, like the one that did join me once I kicked out when tried to sell me crypto. Good job, Twitter. Good job, Twitter. But because it was from Twitter back then when I posted on Twitter once.
Would you say that Twitter bot is now your ex?
No.
I actually don't use Twitter anymore.
I'm done. I got a new phone and Facebook app. I was like, I don't need to install this either.
I have Facebook, but I don't have. But I use Facebook for so much stuff. So I mean, I don't like Meta, but Twitter was the one I was willing to be like, okay, fuck you, Nazi, I'm done.
Yeah, agreed.
So, also want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Elena at Hell Has Freak. Follow her on TikTok and Instagram, and definitely go check out A Gamer Looks at 40 with Bill Tucker. Still talking Final Fantasy forever. Not forever, but he's still doing it. So definitely go check him out. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, YouTube, audio only, rate and review so get your podcasting. That's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay down.